So today's video is going to be another solved true crime case. Today we're going to be talking about the murder of supermodel Jasmine Fiore. I remember this was one of the first true crime cases that I ever properly looked into, and it was this one and a couple of others that sparked my interest in the whole genre, because I remember thinking, that is just insane. And I can't believe I've never covered this on my channel. So here we are, finally, I'm covering this case. Just to let you know, this video is a two-parter once again. This is part one, part two will be out in literally just a couple of days. If you want to put my notification bell on so that you don't miss it, I would recommend. But before we get into it, I just want to thank our sponsors for making this video possible, Function of Beauty. You guys already know that Function of Beauty is my ride or die hair care company. I have been using them exclusively for coming up on 2 years now. I love that all of their products are customizable for your own personal hair needs. All of the kind of store-bought shampoos and conditioners, they're all very general, you know, for dry hair, but every single person that has dry hair is so unique. Their hair is so unique that this one shampoo and conditioner can't be perfect for everyone. But Function of Beauty formulate each and every one of their products specifically for you and your unique hair. All you have to do is go to their website and fill out a quick 2-minute quiz, give them your hair type and your hair goals. So what do you want to achieve with your hair care? Things like strengthening, hydrating, fixed split ends. These are all things that I personally need. And they'll make the formula just for you. You get to pick the color, the scent, the name on the bottle as well, and then they'll ship it right to your door. I literally refuse to use any other hair care brand at this point. My hair has never been so healthy and strong and soft. I could never go back. And if you do try Function of Beauty, I really recommend you try the pear scent. I love that one. I keep going back to it over and over again. I like to try the new ones. There's actually a mango one out right now that I haven't tried, but I'm gonna try it next time. But I just keep going back to the pear scent. Another thing that I recommend is the hair serum that they do. My hair, honestly, it makes it so soft. Function of Beauty are 100% vegan and cruelty-free. They have no toxins, GMOs, sulfates, parabens, nothing like that in their products. So it's all good. And Function of Beauty are very kindly offering you guys 20% off of your first set when you go through the link down below in my description. So take advantage, because this is the best thing you will ever do for your hair, I promise. Thanks again to Function of Beauty for sponsoring this video. Love you guys. Now, before we get into it, I just want to give my usual disclaimer that I mean absolutely no disrespect to anyone that I talk about in this video. This video is for educational purposes, and everything that I'm about to say is just information that I have found on the internet and I'm compiling into one video. Quickly, before we get into it, I just want to give a little warning that this case does involve heavy themes of domestic violence, domestic abuse. So if that is something that you can't watch right now, feel free to click out of this video. I'm sure I'll see you soon with a different case, but look after yourself. Now, without further ado, let's get into the case. Jasmine Lepore was a 28-year-old woman born on February 18th, 1981 in Santa Cruz, California in the US. Jasmine had a very normal, very happy childhood. I mean, her parents did divorce when she was 8 years old, and after that she was raised just by her mother. But this was the only kind of bump in her childhood. Everything else was smooth. She was happy. She was a very, very normal girl growing up. She had a part-time job at a grocery store. She loved sports. She was on the football team. She was a very active person. She was quite tomboyish in a way. She just loved kind of getting dirty. She liked all the kind of boy sports. I hate saying that, but that's just how she is often described as a teenager, that she was kind of tomboy. Jasmine is described as being very warm, very kind, very caring and nurturing. She wants to make sure that everyone is okay and happy at all times in her company. She loved animals, she loved nature, she loved being outdoors, adventuring. She especially loved riding horses. She didn't have any herself, but she had quite a wealthy friend when she was in school, and this wealthy friend had loads of fields, had horses, and Jasmine and this friend would ride horses for hours on the weekends. As Jasmine got into her late teens, I mean, she was a beautiful girl. She always was a beautiful beautiful girl. And in her late teens, she actually got scouted for some modeling jobs. And Jasmine had always dreamed of being famous, making a name for herself, being wealthy, having people know her name. Like, she always loved the idea of Hollywood and just being a celebrity in general. And when these modeling jobs were pretty much just handed to her on a plate, she thought that this was perfect. This was the perfect path to the fame and fortune that she'd always wanted. She'd always adored Marilyn Monroe her whole life. Like, she was her biggest idol. She just wanted to be what Marilyn was, what Marilyn represented, just that beautiful woman that was just famous and rich and everyone wanted her. So she was buzzing. She took these modeling jobs with open arms. These modeling jobs started out as like swimsuit modeling, so for catalogs and for certain magazines. She did commercials like on TV, and then she kind of got into body painted modeling, you know, where they're kind of, well, they're naked and they're painted so they look like they're clothed, but they're not. And she used to kind of do that at casinos and stuff. She was like the entertainment girls. And these jobs just progressed, and she started doing kind of 18 plus adult hotlines. In fact, I don't know if she was actually ever on the hotlines, like answering the phone and talking to these men, but I think she was advertising the hotline. So it was like, look at this beautiful woman. If you call, you can talk to her. But it was never actually her. But she did do a lot of kind of adult glamour photo shoots, you know, where she's wearing a bikini or maybe less than. And that's kind of what she was known for. That was her niche. And eventually these modeling jobs just got bigger and bigger for Jasmine until she was like a low-level celebrity. And I don't even mean that in a bad way, but you know, everyone's got to start from the bottom, and she was starting to gain a name for herself. It was at this point that she realized she probably needed like a stage name. She didn't want to be Jasmine Lepore, like her birth name, and so she became Jasmine Fiore. And her celebrity status only got bigger and bigger and bigger as she got into her 20s. By the time she was in her mid-20s, she was dating other celebrities. She was on red carpets. She was like an it girl in LA. She would go to all these big, expensive parties, like pool parties, beach parties, parties at the Playboy Mansion. I know she worked with Playboy quite a bit, but I don't think she was ever like a playmate, you know, one of the in-house girls. But I think she did like shoots with them. She worked with the magazine maybe, but not posing. I don't really know the specifics, but at this point, Jasmine was just so happy with her life and the way that her career was blossoming. This was everything that she'd ever wanted. And everyone that knew Jasmine at this stage in her life just said how sweet and down to earth she was as well. This was LA, and these are celebrities at mansion parties. People aren't necessarily down to earth, but that was one thing that surprised and also drew people in to Jasmine, was that she was one of a kind. She was very confident, very friendly, very outgoing. She was willing to strike up a conversation and form a friendship with literally anyone at these parties. On top of that, she was very driven in her career life. She was very ambitious. She had big dreams and she was gonna achieve them. She was gonna let no one stand in her way. She invested her money wisely because she knew that she didn't want this forever. She didn't always want to be a glamour model for the rest of her life. And I mean, for a lot of people, it's not really a thing that they do carry on past their 20s. And so she was investing money in properties. She just attained her real estate license, so that was a path that she was about to go into. And she was also looking into purchasing and building her own gym and becoming like a personal trainer there. Like I said, she was very active, very sporty. She loved all that kind of thing. So this was like her end goal, was that she wanted to own a gym. So her career for the past 10 years, so this started in her late teens, she's now in like her mid-20s, so almost 10 years. It's just been progressing and progressing, snowballing. And through this whole thing, of course, other stuff was going on in Jasmine's life. She had relationships, she had boyfriends, people had come and go from her life. So many men wanted Jasmine Fiore, and it's no surprise. She's beautiful, she's driven, she seemed, according to what people have said about her, to have such a different quality to her in Hollywood. But she wasn't willing to just go with anyone. I mean, so many men threw themselves at her practically, and she was kind of batting them off. She had this on and off long-term boyfriend named Robert Hasman, and for Jasmine, Robert was it. You know, he was her soulmate. And even though they were on and off, they really struggled with a lot of conflict in their relationship, a lot of arguments and things, but they would separate, they would kind of learn their lesson in a way. You know, they would overcome this thing that had gotten between them, and then they'd end up back together. The universe just kept bringing these two people back together. And she always told her friends that she imagined spending the rest of her life with Robert Hasman. Like, it was him that she was going to end up with once and for all, no matter who she got with when they split up and went on a break or whatever. It was always going to be him. And he was so dedicated to her as well. He was besotted by her. They were both equally as drawn to each other. But then in the early to mid 2000s, I don't know what the reason was for their final breakup, but something happened. The two of them were kind of pulled apart, and they never found their way back together. Jasmine then met another man named Travis in 2005, and she actually ended up getting engaged to this man. Now, these two were a bit of a rocky pairing. They were together for about 6 months until they ended up calling off the engagement. They called off the engagement, but then they carried on dating afterwards. I don't know, it was very messy. I can't imagine the process where you would say, right, okay, I don't want to marry you anymore, but let's carry on dating. I think it kind of says a lot about what their relationship was like, that they didn't want to get married, but they still kind of wanted each other in their lives. It was like they didn't want to be together, but they didn't want to be apart. Eventually in 2008, this relationship with Travis came to an end, and Jasmine was single once again. And then in March of 2009, Jasmine Fiore met a very, very wealthy Canadian businessman when she was on a night out in a casino in Las Vegas. This man was 32-year-old real estate investor Ryan Jenkins. And this relationship between Jasmine and Jenkins is what I can only describe as a whirlwind romance. The two of them met in this casino one night. They were practically inseparable for 48 hours afterwards. And then on the third day that they knew each other, they ran off to a chapel on the Las Vegas Strip and got married. They got married in Vegas after knowing each other for 3 days. You've never heard anything like it. Now, Ryan Jenkins, this man that she'd just married, her husband now, that she'd known for 3 days, he was the ultimate catch for Jasmine, or for any woman for that matter. He was conventionally attractive, very, very wealthy. I think his net worth was like $2.5 million, and he was charming, and he was funny, and he was just everything that Jasmine wanted. When he met Jasmine that night at the casino, Jenkins had actually just finished filming for a VH1 reality show, so he was a reality star, or he was about to be, because they film it all like 6 months before it actually goes live. So he'd filmed it all in March, and then it was due to air in August. So he was about to be a reality star, but no one really knew his name yet. This show that he'd just been filming in March was named Megan Wants a Millionaire. Now, the premise of this show is all about this woman named Megan Hauserman. And Megan Hauserman herself is a pretty well-known reality TV star. She's been in so many different shows. She was in Rock of Love, Beauty and the Geek, I Love Money, all these different, are they all VH1 shows? All American reality TV shows. She was a well-known figure, and her kind of character in these reality shows was that she was a gold digger. Now, I'm not saying that about Megan in real life. I have no idea what she's like in real life. And a lot of times on reality shows, people are given characters So whether they're like that in real life or not, that's who they are in the show because that's going to drive ratings. So Megan Hauserman was the gold digger in Rock of Love and in Beauty and the Geek. And so the producers thought, right, let's capitalize on this even further. Let's give this woman her own show, her own dating show. It was kind of like The Bachelor. So it was Megan and then like 20 men, all millionaires, all worth literally millions of dollars each. And all of them are to compete for her love and affection. They would take her out on all these expensive dates, take her to yachts and, you know, all this kind of stuff. And at the end of the show, she would pick one of them to be her boyfriend. And Ryan Jenkins was one of those millionaires. He was one of those people on the show. He was actually called the Smooth Operator. That was his nickname. They gave all the men nicknames. I suppose it tells you a lot about Ryan Jenkins as a person. So they started filming Megan Wants a Millionaire, the first season of it. They actually signed a 3-season contract. I mean, Ryan Jenkins was only going to be on season 1, but anyway. They started filming season 1 in March of 2009. So literally just a few days before Ryan Jenkins met Jasmine Fiore, he was competing for Megan Hauserman on TV. I mean, it is just a show, but still. Megan said that the two of them, her and Jenkins, had like an immediate connection on this show, and he got really far in the show as well. Actually, he got into the final 3, so he was almost in the final 2 and she ditched him and he was eliminated. But some of the comments that he was making on the show made his intentions very, very clear with Megan. Of course, he was Canadian. He'd come over from Canada and he wanted to stay in the US. And he kept saying to her, you know, when I win this, we're going to get married. He would literally explicitly say this on the show, we're going to get married so I can get a green card so that he could stay in the US. And Megan was like, okay. But anyway, he didn't win the show. He didn't marry Megan. He was kicked off in the final 3, which made him single in time to meet Jasmine Fiore at the casino a few days later. Now, by all accounts, Jasmine and Jenkins' relationship started off brilliantly. They were both into all these expensive parties. Jenkins had the money. He would throw these parties, these beach cabana parties. He would invite, you know, all his wealthy friends, and Jasmine would invite all her celebrity friends. These parties were supposedly mental. And they were like a power couple. Jasmine and Jenkins were a power couple, especially as it got closer to the time of Megan Wants a Millionaire releasing and people started to know Jenkins' face and his name. They were a power couple. And they seemed just really, really happy together. I mean, Jenkins would post videos on his MySpace, videos of Jasmine saying like, hey baby, this is our life now. Like videos of them on yachts and laying at the beach, like, you know, just proper like showing off this amazing life that they've both got.
Hey baby, look at this place. This is our life.
Now, I believe the two of them, their feelings for each other were genuine. I believe. But they both also had ulterior motives as to why this marriage benefited them. I think it was kind of like they were both going to go into this marriage anyway, but the feelings were a bonus. So for Jenkins, of course, it was his green card. He wanted to marry someone in the US so that he could live in the US. He was a Canadian citizen. Jasmine was willing to marry him. But Jasmine also got something out of this because Jenkins, Ryan Jenkins, a millionaire, multi-millionaire worth $2.5 million. And he agreed to give Jasmine $10,000 a month as kind of just like a, you know, wife bonus. She would get $10,000 a month, you know, while they were married. I think it explains why they both jumped into the marriage so fast, but I do think they connected and had feelings for each other in the very beginning. I don't think it was all just for these ulterior motives. I think they liked each other. But they did seem very, very happy. Like at all these parties at the beginning, like all their friends said that they genuinely couldn't keep their hands off each other. They were almost a little bit too much. That was until Ryan Jenkins' jealousy began spiraling out of control at a very rapid rate. He was insecure in his relationship with Jasmine Fiore, who was so beautiful. I mean, that's literally her job, is to be one of the most beautiful women in the world. She poses on all of these magazines every day to be admired by other men. That's literally part of her job description. And he couldn't handle that. He couldn't handle the idea of other men being attracted to his wife. I think he liked the idea of being married to a swimsuit model, like my wife is a swimsuit model, more than he liked the reality of what that would bring. If you're married to a swimsuit model, when you go out to a bar, other people in that bar are going to find her attractive. Other men are going to look at her and they're going to hit on her. And this happened all the time. And he couldn't take it. On top of this as well, I think this was intensified by the fact that Jasmine was also just his only friend. Since he was from Canada, all his friends are still over there. He's only been in the US for a couple of months to film Megan Wants a Millionaire. He doesn't actually have any friends outside of that. She was his only form of socialization in the US. So whenever she was busy and not paying attention to him, maybe she was going out with her friends, her family, her work colleagues, he didn't like it. Well, he didn't have anything when she wasn't there. He didn't have anyone to talk to. So I think he felt very threatened when these men would hit on her in the bar, because not only would he lose his girlfriend if, she decided she liked this man more than him, not only would he lose his wife, but he would also lose his best friend, his only friend, his socialization, literally everything. He also had issues with Jasmine Fiore still being very close with her ex-boyfriends. Multiple as well. It wasn't just one. I think there was two. In slight fairness, I think there were a few incidents where she may have cheated on him with ex-boyfriends. Like, she kissed her ex-boyfriends. And I think just other men in general, I think she would cheat on him rather regularly. There was one particular incident where the couple had gone to a pool party and Jasmine had met this man called David. She'd never met him before, and by the end of the night they were making out on the side of the pool, and Jenkins saw this. He saw his wife kissing another man. And as serious as this is, to catch your partner cheating on you at a party, Jenkins then blew it out of proportion. He went over there, he was screaming at Jasmine and somehow managed to push her into the pool. This was in June of 2009, so they'd been married for about 3 months at this point. Jasmine did press charges against him, and Jenkins was charged with battery, and he was put in a holding cell for 2 days, and then he was just given probation for a year. But this was only the start of a very rapid deterioration of their relationship. Jasmine's friends and family remember them being so good and so happy one minute, and then a couple of weeks later it was just turmoil. They would fight every single day. They would argue. He would be screaming at her. I don't know what every single argument was about. I think they were both very, very toxic for each other. They both did things to each other that were very out of order. I'm not going to go into everything, and I couldn't find everything as well. Bear in mind with this case that a lot of stuff must have been going on behind closed doors that we don't know about. We don't know the conversations that they had, the fights that they had. We genuinely don't know. But as all of this was getting worse and worse and worse, Jasmine started to kind of defend herself in the way that she would lie to Jenkins. If she was going out with a man, if she was going out to a bar with a group of friends and there was a man in that group, she would lie and say she was just going out with the girls. She couldn't even tell the truth to her boyfriend anymore without him flying off the handle about something. So this whole time, the two of them had lived in Las Vegas. That was where they met, and that was where they decided to get an apartment together. However, at this point, they'd been arguing and fighting so much that Jasmine was like, right, I'm off, I'm going. So she went to LA and got herself an apartment. Now, I don't think this was necessarily to try and escape Jenkins. One of Jasmine's friends gave an interview and said that it was more like a chase. Jasmine kind of liked having Jenkins chase after her and want her so badly. Do take this with a pinch of salt, because of course, no one can be 100% what Jasmine was genuinely feeling and what her genuine intentions were with moving away. A lot of people have debated just everything about this source, everything about this friend that gave this interview. They've debated kind of her intentions with it and whether everything that she was saying was genuine. I don't know, but this friend says that it wasn't actually like Jasmine was trying to leave. She was just moving and kind of, she liked having this guy like her so much that he was going to follow her everywhere, you know? The two of them still married after all of this horrible stuff that keeps happening. He followed her to LA and now they're living in LA together. But things are only getting worse and worse and worse. Jenkins' jealousy just grew and grew and grew to the point where he was like, right, I'm going to make her jealous now because I'm in so much pain being jealous over here. I want to put her in the same pain. And he began cheating on Jasmine right back, just how she'd cheated on him multiple times in the past. He actually brought a woman back to their LA apartment that they shared. Bear in mind, by the way, just a side fact, Jasmine paid for the whole thing. We'll talk about this a little bit more later, but Jenkins didn't pay a single penny towards this LA apartment. So he was living in her apartment. He brought another woman back and slept with this other woman in their bed, in the bed that he shares with his wife. And he did this at a time when he knew Jasmine was going to be coming home. And she did. She came home, she walked in the bedroom and caught him in bed with this other woman. Jasmine at this point had just had enough of Ryan Jenkins. He wasn't bringing anything into her life anymore. At the start, they were happy, they had parties, they were a power couple. But now, all he was causing her was stress, upset. He was making everything harder for her. He was horrible. So she sits him down and speaks to him and threatens to get their marriage annulled. So, kind of like a divorce. Now, Jenkins started panicking. He was panicking. He knew that he needed someone, whether it was Jasmine or someone else. He needed someone. He needed a wife. And if Jasmine was going to let him go, he needed someone else ready to take her place as soon as she leaves. And so Ryan Jenkins gets in contact with Megan Hauserman from Megan Wants a Millionaire. The two of them met up and Megan said that this was the first time she'd seen Ryan Jenkins in like 6 months. They'd filmed in March. This was like the summer now. And she said that he looked awful. He'd lost a lot of weight. He was really pale. He was just like radiating bad vibes. She was like, this is not the man that I fancied on the show back in March. This is not the smooth operator. So she made it very clear very early on that she just was not interested in rekindling their romance. And Jenkins accepted that, and very quickly this meeting turned into just him confiding in Megan about his deteriorating marriage. He was saying to her that he feels like Jasmine's gonna leave him and he wants to get her back, he wants to win her back, but he doesn't really know what to do. He thinks that the answer to the issue is money. He thinks that if he can get a load of money, then he can win Jasmine back. He can, buy her back. He said that it was driving him crazy that she didn't like him like he liked her. Like, he was just crazy obsessed with this girl, and she just, she could give or take him, to be honest. But he said that he had a plan to be able to get Jasmine Fiore back. And this plan included another reality TV show. Now, this reality TV show that he managed to book was called I Love Money. You might have heard of it. It's literally just a game show where they all compete for money. But I think it's mainly former reality stars that go on it. So it's like people that are already kind of low-level celebrities so that you know them all, and they all compete for this $250,000 grand prize, $250,000, that's mental. His plan was to go on this show, win the grand prize, and give it all to Jasmine, or at least share it with Jasmine, and he felt that that would win her back. Because Ryan Jenkins, okay, so think about where he came from. Meghan Wants a Millionaire. He said that he was worth $2.5 million. But had Jasmine Fiore seen a single penny of that? Absolutely not. It was literally part of their agreement that she was going to get $10,000 a month just by being married to him, and she never saw a single penny of that. He would always tell her like, oh, my money's all tied up in Canada, I'm having trouble converting it, you know, all these money issues, it's in a Canadian bank, I can't get it into dollars. But these issues were going on for months and months and months. And if you're a multi-millionaire and you can't access a single penny of that, you're not just going to let it go on for months. You're going to sort that ish out. And he just wasn't. There was no money. Ryan Jenkins seemed to have no money. But he did at the same time. Like, especially in the beginning, he was throwing all these parties, these beach cabana parties. But where had all that money gone, you know? How could he access it in the beginning, but not now? And Jasmine had started cottoning on to this. She realised, like, okay, so you've got money to throw parties, but you've got no money for me, when that was our agreement. So this was all part of Jenkins' plan, was that he was going to go get this $250,000, and that's finally kind of the money that he'll be able to give Jasmine, because his is all caught up in Canada. So he said to her before he went and filmed this show, I Love Money, he was like, look, I'm going to win this for us. We're going to have the life I promised you. You know, everything is going to be good again. This is going to save our marriage. This is going to save our lives, our finances. And Jasmine believed him. Well, whether she believed him or not, she gave him the benefit of the doubt, and she allowed him to prove himself to her. So she said, okay, you go on the show. I want to see this $250,000 when you get back. So Jenkins went away in the summer of 2009 to Mexico, and they were filming I Love Money. And there, on this show, he teams up with this woman named Lacey Skulls, and the two of them are kind of competing with each other. They've kind of formed an alliance on the show. They're not a team. And Lacey, I think she kind of liked him. I don't know. Obviously, I haven't seen the show, but she very much admired Ryan Jenkins. He was really, really intelligent on this show. I mean, he did have brains, and he was winning pretty much every single challenge. Like, apparently he was the best on this show, but he didn't give a crap about Lacey. He had full tunnel vision on that money and on his wife, Jasmine Fiore. He was going to win that $250,000 and take it home to her. In fact, this was even like a big part of his character on the show, supposedly. Like, the producers said that they would make jokes about how much this guy loves his wife. Like, he was obsessed with his wife. They said that they would kind of zoom in on him on the phone in the back, like talking to her, calling her baby on the phone, and like that would be the root of a lot of jokes around Ryan Jenkins, was that he was obsessed with his wife, Jasmine Fiore. And it turned out that Ryan Jenkins actually won the show. He won I Love Money. He won $250,000. So he took it back home to Jasmine Fiore, and he said, look, we can finally be happy with this. By now, it was like August of 2009. They'd been together like 5 months, and they'd broken up probably about 5 times. And on August 3rd of 2009, the first episode of Meghan Wants a Millionaire airs. And this is, you know, Ryan Jenkins' first night of stardom, the first night that people see his face, hear his name. Up until this point, he'd just kind of been some rich real estate agent guy from Canada. I mean, he didn't really have much fame at all, if any. And overnight, he was propelled into reality TV stardom. Suddenly, a lot of people knew who he was. They knew his name, and they, you know, recognized him. He and Jasmine couldn't go out anywhere without being recognized, which they both loved. I mean, that's the kind of job that they both intentionally put themselves into. It's not like they accidentally became a celebrity. They both kind of aspired to be one. They applied to shows. They took huge modeling jobs on magazines. You know, this is what they wanted, and they were loving it. And people around them said that their relationship seemed better than ever. Jenkins was still posting videos on MySpace of him and Jasmine. There was one where Jasmine's kind of dancing by the pool and Jenkins in the background says, "I love my life and I love my wife." They're both smiling, they're both happy, and friends of theirs, so a couple of the other men that were on Megan Wants a Millionaire, they invited Jenkins and Fiore out to a dinner. They were going to go to this fancy dinner at a restaurant. They were all going to sit there and have a very classy meal. But the friends said that Jenkins and Jasmine just could not keep their hands off each other, to the point where it was quite uncomfortable. Like, they were literally like making out at the dinner table in this classy, fancy restaurant, which, I mean, good for them. They said it was really weird. It wasn't what they kind of wanted at this dinner. But, I mean, that tells you a lot about the state of their relationship at this point in time. Jenkins and Fiore, they were happy again. On August 13th, 2009, the two of them went away for the weekend together for this charity poker tournament. I think they were like celebrity guests at it. They went and stayed in a hotel in San Diego. The plan was that they were going to go to the charity event. There were going to be a bunch of other celebrities there. And then after that, they were all going to go out and get absolutely wasted. And that's exactly what they did. They all went to the tournament, which ended around like midnight or 1 a.m. And then from there, they all went to the Ivy Hotel nightclub and they all stayed there for the rest of the night. But then on August 15th, so 2 days later after that charity poker tournament, it became clear that something was very wrong. Something had happened. Ryan Jenkins began texting around all of Jasmine Fiore's friends, asking if any of them had seen her or heard from her. He said that he just couldn't get hold of her at all. He said they'd had this really lovely weekend in San Diego at the tournament, and then they came home. Jasmine was driving home in her Mercedes, so she drove them, and she dropped Ryan Jenkins at home and said that she was going to go run some errands and she would be home later that day, but she never came home. His initial theory as to why she hadn't returned home was that she was trying to prove a point, that she was trying to piss him off. In text to Jasmine's friends, he actually said, "I hope she's okay. I'm going to be really upset if she just disappeared to prove a point or something lame." He seemed concerned, but at the same time, he also felt like it wasn't a big deal. Like, it wasn't like something bad had happened to her, but more that she was just being stubborn and he just wanted her home. He wanted to know what she was doing and if she was okay. All of her friends said that they hadn't actually seen her or heard from her. She hadn't come to any of their houses. And so everyone was starting to get a little bit worried. And so that same night, Ryan Jenkins reported Jasmine Fiore missing to the police. And that is where I'm going to leave it for part 1. Like I said, part 2 will be up in the next few days. Make sure you've got my notification bell on. Make sure you subscribe so that you don't miss part 2. Thanks again to Function of Beauty for sponsoring this video. Remember, if you guys want 20% off of your first set, you can use the link down below in the description. I beg you do it. It'll be the best thing you ever do for your hair, I promise you. Huge thank you to all of my channel members for helping me decide the cases that I cover, especially my tier 2 members whose names are all on screen right now. If you want to become a channel member, you can just click the join button on a desktop, or there'll be a link in the description of this video. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed, please leave a thumbs up and subscribe if you want to see, oh, it's here. Subscribe if you want to see some more from me. Subscribe if you want to see my second channel. I am posting on there again. And if you want to watch another true crime video, there's a playlist on screen right now. Bye!